The topic of this video is Deneris' opening idea with white, which I applied in this game. Deneris is a very strong Russian player from Lichess, maybe 2450 to 2500 strength in Horde. And some of the lessons to learn could be metagame strategy with white, also conducting a counterattack in the most economically efficient manner. Also, maybe just just exposure to new schools of thought about Horde, because Clap Pawn Cheeks is a very new player. He's been only playing for a month and a half, and he's already 2300 on this site. He trains with the computer, he says. He analyzes his games with the computer, and he plays against it. And I was telling him how I think that approach is fundamentally flawed and limiting, and he won't be a strong player without actually trying to reverse engineer some human games instead of engine games, since the engine really thinks a lot of things that are nonsensical. But on the other hand, maybe exposure to the nonsensical ideas could help gain a little more insight about the game in some ways. But I rarely ever trained with a computer, and I improved faster than anyone else on this site. E5, E6, so sometimes I play E4 here, right? But I chose F6 because one problem that I don't like about this E4 line is that black can take on F5, and then after A5, it sort of transposes it into something after the D5 lines. So this is like very similar, maybe the same, as going D5, E6, D4, take, A5, E4. Yeah, it's actually the exact same. It just transposes. So I don't really like that, because I play E5 for a reason. If I liked this line with D5, then I might as well play D5 at the start, because it's really the only reasonable main line for black. Beauty of D5 opening is that it kind of limits black's options for the opening. Like, E6 is the only normal move here, whereas after E5 there's E6, there's D6. So D5 kind of cuts a lot of the branches. Anyway, so F6 in this position is the ultimate way to stay in move 1 E5 territory. So he takes 3 times on F6. That's standard, playable for both sides. You can also throw in D6. I think the move here is like to take, and then take twice. I could be wrong. What to say about this position? I mean, I don't know. I like white, but black's structure is very malleable. He has a lot of ideas, kind of. I mean, sometimes H5, knight E7, knight G6 is like really hard to stop. Maybe I should play H5 myself. Or, I could do C5 and then H5. But if I go H5, then sometimes there's F6 or H6. So I don't know. I don't know. D6 is not as common. You could, so take, and then yeah, I don't really see a way for black to deviate. So maybe white should be fine there. Maybe it's appropriate to take 3 times more than any other possibility for black. Most people in this position for white play e4 here, and then it usually continues like queen d8, e5, c6, c takes d5, c takes d5, and c5. And it's a pretty standard position. It's also anybody's game. Maybe black is a little better, I don't know. But it's very unique territory. I decided to try Deneris Idea, Deneris's idea with d5. The point of d5 is pretty sly, so when black plays d6, you want to play c6. That is the idea. So now it's kind of like half of a crab formation. It's really nice to have the pawn on c6 prohibit the knight from entering d7. Also, now that black has traded off one of his knights, he no longer has this knight e7 resource to pile up on the c6 pawn and force a breakthrough on the queen side. Had black had this knight after something like this, right? And if we play c6, then black would win because knight e7 would be very strong here. So after e4, he can just take on c6, and then b takes, and then a takes b4, important intermediate move to guarantee the opening of the a file. A takes b4, and then just take twice with the knights. And then whatever white does here, black will win, like b5 runs into knight b8, knight d7, knight b6, knight takes a4. And if white goes d4 and d5, then knight a5 with the plan of bishop d7 is very strong. I don't know about here specifically, since we had the pawn on f5, we can now go e6, but h6 is not like a move he would play in a real game. That was just to illustrate the pattern with d5 and knight a5, so here you can probably simply go like bishop d7, right? And then you're just going to take here or here, and then take here. But due to the absence of one of the knights, so trading off on f6, this c6 idea is suddenly much stronger. Now I think white has a very practical position. It's really hard for black, I think. So yeah, it's just really hard to find a breakthrough, and white will just simply play d4, advance all the center pawns, and then just play c5, maybe trade off on c5, and just create a really strong counterattack on the queen side. I play e3, h5. Yeah, so he moves the h-pawn twice, I guess because just in case h6 has any properties like queen g7, bishop e7, that way I can't play g5. But then later he just decides that it's no problem if I play g5 because now he has like f6 eventually, well, with bishop e7 included, and then he can probably break through that way. I mean, maybe I should play g5 there, I'm not sure. But you're kind of picking your own poison here, even if white is better, between leaving the pawn on g4 or closing the h-file with g5. And this is what I wanted. This is related to when I said metagame strategy in the opening. This is the moment that I was talking about. How do you decide whether to play g5 or to leave the pawn on g4? Okay, well, if you leave the pawn on g4, then he can open up the h-file, which makes him more likely to break open the kingside faster, although requiring a lot of sacrifices to do so. He would have to sacrifice these two pieces to break open on the h4. But if you close it, then the problem becomes that black sort of blocks your structure. So white kind of cripples himself now because the f5 square is weakened, the g6 square is weak, and now it's kind of like white is paralyzed. So Zvenos, the best Horde player in the world for 5 years until Mindhunter dethroned him, would probably prefer to keep the pawn on g4. He is not a big fan of closing the positions because the consequence of giving up the squares means that you're forced to play on one side of the board, and then black can use his heavy pieces to monitor that side. So I think g5 might be inferior choice. I don't know, because just because you get broken through does not mean that you lose, right? Stubenfish said it best. White's chances are based on the fact that in a lot of positions, the only winning method for black is to break open the back and infiltrate. Stubenfish basically makes a point that white is more likely to win with his back broken than if black can win by shuffling. So white would rather let black infiltrate rather than to be paralyzed. So yeah, I'm happy with my decision to play d4. About that metagame strategy thing, yeah, so you want to keep all sides as free as possible for white. A free range is super important. If he can break through, just make sure that he has to sacrifice a lot of material to do so. I already have a pawn on c6, so I am pretty well set for a queenside counterattack. That's the beauty of these move 1 e5 openings. You often get a counterattack on the queenside. Yeah, so there's a trade on g4, so obviously he opens up the h-file. I go h3 just to over-defend the g4 pawn. It might not be necessary. I could just simply play maybe d3, and then he takes. This is probably all well and good for white, right? Because I don't think black can get rid of that bishop if he's going to get rid of his other bishop. I think that's just too much material sacrifice. I think white is winning. So maybe not necessary to defend it. And then I play h5, so yeah, just to... I mean, if I let him take on h4, then I think it's going to be a really risky race war. I think white will most likely lose it. I'm not sure. So h5 just to slow down matters. f5, pretty crafty move. Maybe I can just play c takes b7, forcing bishop takes b7, after which I can take on e6, and I win a pawn this way, and I'm gonna play d5 next move or something, or take first and then d5. Yeah, maybe that's superior to what I did. I was thinking in a very strategic lens, so I just develop calmly. I let him take g4 3 times. It's a little bit risky this time because with the pawn on h5, he grabs it for free, and now he's guaranteed a breakthrough without sacrificing the dark bishop. Yes, he leaves the b7 pawn hanging, but he can always play rook a7. Queen g6, take, rook a7, c5. Okay, take. Right, because if he goes here right away, I don't know. Maybe no difference. Taking makes sense to me, but it kind of goes against principles. You kind of want to leave your defending pawns there and let white take himself. But on the other hand, I could then kick the knight with tempo after the knight takes a6, recapture. Alright, so rook a7, c4, queen h7, e5. Yeah, so my idea with e5 is to play d6 after the rook sacrifices on h3. Take, in g2. Yeah, so the point of g2 is to shield this diagonal, even though it does not win me time in terms of him taking the f1 pawn. It does win me time to keep this diagonal guarded. In the game, he like blanked out, had a lapse of attention, and played queen h2 for no reason. I think I'm winning regardless. Take, bishop d8, c6, queen g1, c5. So, one of the lessons I was saying is included is economic efficiency. So, what I mean by that is how to save the most time, how to preserve your attacking asset as long as you possibly can. So the way to do this is you want to try to create a threat every move. So b6 creates a threat. It doesn't mean that your intention is to take it. It just means that when he moves a separate piece, like maybe a queen somewhere, it then enables me to take it. So basically the point of creating like a situation where you attack a piece with a pawn or create a threat is that it binds other pieces to monitor it. That's the point. It's about binding pieces to supervise each other. It's super important for the counterattack. And of course here I'm just winning, so he resigns. Yeah, okay. I think I just had a really good opening outcome. In summary, this idea with d5 here is pretty rare, but also very, I think it's really good actually. I think it's really hard for black to find like a forced win, because my c6 pawn just stays there for a long time. He kind of wasted time moving the h pawn twice, but yeah, I'm not too interested in playing g5, right? Otherwise, something like this, maybe. And it's just like, I mean, it's probably good for white, I don't know. maybe it's even superior, but it's not like where allowing him to open the H file would lose for me. So I like the idea of allowing him the breakthrough because it kind of entices him to give up some material, which just makes me feel so much more comfortable regarding the counterattack and my chances. So H5, okay, F5. Yeah, I should probably take and win the pawn. Of course, if he takes with the rook here, then I simply take this way. So yeah, and okay, maybe, okay, actually I don't win a pawn. He can just take something and then take with the rook. So maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe I can take here, but then take, and take. I don't know. Maybe what I did is reasonable, but maybe I can also consider c5, and then if he takes, I just take this way. Take, 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 take. Okay, so I'm wrong because I think what I did was really good, actually, with e2. e2 is actually really good because after all the trades on g4, it shields this diagonal away from the queen, allowing me to have the time to play h3, which is an economically efficient way to delay the breakthrough. Because, okay, he has to take with the queen. If he takes with the rook, I think I just win, right? I just simply advance. I mean, I can even create kingside attack maybe, but yeah, in this case, I think white should probably win. But it's worth analysis, maybe. So he takes with the queen. All in all, in summary, I am mostly happy about the decisions I made in general. But indeed, maybe I can improve somewhere. Alright, thank you. That's all for this video. I thought that this game was totally worth sharing just because of the opening. This opening has never been featured yet, and I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. It's a really nice idea, I think, with d5. Not sure why, but like Mindhunter never plays that when he plays the move to f6 line with white. Alright, thank you, and take care.